I'd like to introduce you to a relatively new friend, but someone that I've been spending a lot of time with over this past about almost a year now. He actually came to our first altitude program in January of this year, where I met him, and he introduced himself to me and stood up and shared at the program. And one of the things that he shared was that he had been making a lot of money selling various types of products online, e-commerce, and not just, stuff that, products on how to make money online and making online, selling products on how to make money online, but selling a lot of real products and, like hard goods, wedding favors, and a bunch of other things. Not that there's anything wrong with selling how to make money online, products online. Have I said that a lot? And then he said, and then we launched a business. Maybe it's a business that teaches people how to make money online, but it's a business teaching people search engine strategies and internet marketing and e-commerce. And we launched this program, and the first day we launched it, we did about $12.5 million worth of sales. And I said, "Excuse me? Did you say $12.5 million worth of sales the first day? Are you measuring days like me? I think maybe we need to talk." And it went on to be basically the most successful and the biggest launch in internet history. And I've now gone down and been a guest speaker at some of their programs, and Brad and I have made pretty good friends. And the thing that makes Brad so interesting is that he really does bridge that gap between marketing and business, and between e-commerce and the best that offline business has to offer. He is a true business expert, leader in every sense. And so I wanted to have him come up here and share with you and share some ideas and strategies for building your own business and give you another perspective from someone that runs a big multi-million dollar company. So, Brad, you ready? Please welcome my good friend Brad Fallon. Thank you very much for coming down, Brad.
You bet.
I texted Brad last night and said, "Hey, Brad, where you at? Just checking in, making sure you're here." And he texted me back and he said, "I just spent 6 hours with Jay Abraham," which, if you know Jay Abraham, you know that it's amazing that Brad's even awake today, because he probably got more amazing marketing ideas and strategies than just about anybody in this room has. So how was that experience?
It was pretty wild. I'd only met him a couple times. So I just went by to say hi, and we started talking, and next thing they're sending people out for wine, and we just kind of started talking about a bunch of stuff. It was pretty cool.
Sending people out for wine?
Yeah, I find that, the best ideas come after usually 1 or 2 beers. Once you get past 5 or 6, it gets a little rough, but the first couple of bears are key for brainstorming, I think.
So there's like a distribution curve of good ideas and beer, huh?
I mean, we all know that, I think, intuitively.
So write that down. 2 to 5 beers where the best ideas come.
That's right.
So will you just talk a little bit about your business, your background, share, just give us 3 minutes on what you've learned lately and how you learned it?
Sure. So we started myweddingfavors.com. A lot of people know that, in our basement. I guess it'll be 4 years in January. And it was just a little Yahoo store that we got for $50 a month, actually a 30-day free trial, I think, and put up some products. And of course, we had a SEO, search engine strategy, from the very beginning. And so the first month we only had pay-per-click, and we sold maybe $11,000, and thought that was pretty good. But the second month was $20,000, then $60,000, $80,000. I think the 5th month was about $100,000 in sales, and so that's when we got on the first page of Google for wedding favors. We've done a lot with organic search engine traffic. Free is always nice. And then about halfway through the year, we decided to start creating our own products. And to me, that's one of the really interesting things these days, is that, it used to be hard to go over to China and import products, and I know there's people here that have already done that too. And I just think that's amazing. It used to only be global national corporations could do that, and now any of us can go over there and place some orders and buy products directly from factories and get the stuff as cheap as anybody in the world can get it. And so we did that, and so the second year sales were probably maybe around $8 million, about half wholesale and half retail. We ended up becoming a drop shipper or supplier for all of our competitors. And that's been an interesting lesson too. I sort of have always wished I could say I was smart enough to sort of plan that in advance, but it turned out to be a really good idea. The idea that you stay really close to the customer as a retailer. I always think the hardest thing in marketing, or the most important thing in marketing, or certainly a big thing in marketing, is to really understand the customer, to really just be inside the mind of the customer. Well, as a wholesale supplier, you sort of, what are you going to do, focus groups? But as a retailer, right there on the front line, getting more traffic than anyone else in the industry, you're really going to be close to the customer. So when we launch our own products, we tend to have a very high hit rate because we really understand the market. But then as a wholesaler, it's very hard to keep up with the rest of the world. No matter how much we sell on our one site, I mean, every other website, and now bricks and mortar chains and stores selling our products, it's going to be hard to keep up with that on our one site. So the wholesale model, I think, has been sort of an important principle. And I always tell people, think about how you can get into wholesale. A lot of people, for example, start out in affiliate marketing, and that's kind of the worst because you're only selling other people's stuff. And if you're doing it right, and you know what you're doing, of course, you can build your own list and whatever, but it's not really your product, and you're really sort of building someone else's business. But if you get into the wholesale side, or you're even on the retail side, when you have affiliates working for you, that's really the magic. Tens of thousands of people sending you customers, and you don't have to pay them unless they make a sale. That's profound. So think wholesale. That's always been a point. Well, even if you're in info products, think about selling resale rights. Think about how you can get lots and lots of people selling your products, either as an affiliate or as a retailer themselves, which is wholesale.
And now you actually do programs where you take people over to China and show them how to do it and so forth.
Yep.
You've had a little...
Yep, we've done that about 3 times with ChinaImportSeminar.com. The last time we took about 20 people over. In fact, one of those guys is now in the business of doing it too, and doing seminars over there and stuff as well. But yeah, it's pretty neat that you can do that.
You're the second highly successful person that's been on the stage that has said China is very interesting.
Well, I will tell you that China is interesting, and everyone knows that, and everyone's reading that. But another thing that we're all sort of reading, but I really believe this, that the most significant economic event of our lifetime is the emerging middle class in China. And so the question isn't, how can you import products from China or how can you buy from China? The question is, how can you sell to China? And I think all of us in this room are well positioned to do that. If you want to sell in China, what are you going to sell? Nike can sell shoes, and Levi's can go over there and sell some jeans, but it's hard to do e-commerce because they don't have the UPS system like we have. They can't deliver things to all these villages and stuff. So
start a delivery company over there?
No, sell downloadable digital media products. And so that'll be the first language that FreeIQ gets translated into. And I always kind of quiz people. Well, we've got this FreeIQ site that allows anybody to sell user-generated content, if you will. And everyone, I say, what language do you think we'll put it in first? Everyone says Spanish. No, Chinese.
Yeah,
but that's just something to think about. If you're thinking about macroeconomic things, you want to be in a place where you can, really do something significant. Just think about China. And a few years ago, with people like us, work out of our houses, have small businesses, and make a lot of money, but how are you going to even do that? Well, it's just profound. I mean, the world is flat, and it can be done. So I would encourage people to think a little bit about selling to China, not just how you can get cheaper products or whatever.
Talk a little bit about how you got into StomperNet. Just give the 2-minute before we dig in.
Yeah, so StomperNet really dates back all the way to April of 2004 when we had just launched My Wedding Favors. Got a hold of Andy Jenkins, my partner in StomperNet, and I emailed him and said, hey, thanks for that. I bought his ebook on how to build a Yahoo store, and said, hey, thanks for the book. It's pretty cool. We just sold $80,000 this month. And he said, I've sold 7,000 of these books, and I don't think anyone's ever sold $80,000 in a month. And how'd you do that? And I said, SEO. And he said, what's that? And isn't that just complicated or whatever? So he interviewed me. We made an info product that became, I think, the best-selling product on how to do SEO, stomping the search engines. So we did a couple seminars, a couple boot camps, and then that led to StomperNet, because I really realized that it's not enough to think about internet marketing in terms of traffic and conversion, which is what we always talked about. Look, it's high-level traffic and conversion. That's what you have to get good at. But we started talking about internet marketing 2.0 being traffic, conversion, and community. Because the fact is, there's software programs that you need to do SEO, and multiple vendors of them, that didn't even exist 2 or 3 years ago. And how do you keep up with all this stuff? And by having a community of like-minded people that are sharing ideas and stuff like that. So in the StomperNet community, we've had, I think, maybe like 80,000 posts in the last year. We've got 30 paid moderators in there, plus everyone answering each other's questions. And that idea of a community is important. It's important for us to think about social media sites. It's important to think about social media marketing. Just the idea of an online community, and it's very interesting what's happening in the world. You know, people are more isolated. They don't go bowling anymore. They're not in softball leagues as much, but they'll make connections with people around the world, and you know, things are changing.
So let's zoom back for a second. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about how you launched that product in a little while and how you did that. But the most interesting conversations that I've had, I think, with you are when we talk about business theoretically more.
Right.
And one of the things that's interesting about you to me is that your highest value is speed. If it's not fast, or it seems like that's what your highest value is to me in our conversations, if it's not fast, then it's just, you know, you don't even see it almost. It's almost like it just flies right by you. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think about that a lot. Speed is one of those things that can either be done to us or we can embrace it. But we all know that the world is speeding up. It feels like things are getting faster and faster, and they are. I mean, the whole idea that they say, what, more information will be created in the next 12 months than have ever been created in the history of the earth. And, you know, right over here, guys got a little video camera out asking people about Joe Polish or whatever, just collecting videos, and this user-generated content, it's just exploding. And so things are really happening faster, and often, if you think about a business, people always talk about money, like how much did you make, or what was your EBITDA, or what was the, you know, valuation, or just, you know, just all this money stuff. But people, I find, often don't talk about time. There's tons of books on how to hire good people, but there's not a lot of books on how to hire good people faster. And if you want to grow a bigger company faster, you know, you need some. You can't do 4-hour interviews with every single person that you hire. You can't not do that either, by the way. I mean, you know, for example, there's really two things. We talk about how we're always in the market for good people, and I like to say that if you're the CEO or if you're the business owner, the number one thing you've got to worry about is hiring these people. So you're always in the market for them. We kind of talk about like sales guys are always be closing, and marketers are always be testing, and CEOs are always be recruiting. I mean, that's really your only bottleneck, right, is the people you can get on the team. And sometimes you'll recruit these guys for years. And we do that too. But if you've got to fill slots, you've got to learn how to do it faster. And so speed's really important. And it's just, mostly it's if you think about it. One of the things that you talked about is leverage, and that you're the most important leverage point in the business. And so it's the idea of thinking about how to do things faster. People just all the time will just do stuff, like they'll have a meeting. This happens to me all the time. Like if you're networking or you meet somebody and they say, yeah, we should get together on that, or we could do some stuff together, great. And you know, this would be like Tuesday or whatever, and he's like, yeah, when's a good time? And he's like, well, how's next Wednesday or Thursday? I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like a really long ways from now. What about this afternoon? You know, what are you doing tonight? You know, and then he'll say, well, we'll meet first. And then I'm like, well, what if that meeting goes well? He's like, well, then we need to meet with Bob. I'm like, well, great, bring Bob to the meeting. And there's just always opportunities to take out chunks of time and compress the same activity closer to now. And people just, I think, don't think about that a lot.
I hope you wrote that down. That's a good one. It's a great one.
Bringing other people to meetings is a good one. You know, the email's tough, and you know, we all have issues with email and stuff, and everyone's got their own theories about how to handle it better or whatever. But one thing I like to do is copy more people on emails. And I you know, everyone's like, you know, we all get so many emails but it's not like you're going to read them all, but at least you kind of know what's going on. I could just tell you guys, in any organization, and we all know this, and some of you guys have worked in big companies, some of you have big companies, you can never over-communicate. I mean, would we all agree with that? I mean, everyone's going to say that communication is really key in any organization. I think it's impossible to over-communicate. You know, what's the problem? That you're going to tell somebody at this level about this big problem over there? What's wrong with that? So I really believe in just sort of like telling more people about what's going on more often, bring more people to meetings, you know, sooner. Well, we don't really need to take their time. Well, fine, they can leave after 10 minutes if they think it's going to be a waste. But if it turns out you just saved a whole 90 minutes for like a bunch of people's time, because you would have had to repeat the same thing. So try not to repeat things, try to do things faster, and just think about how you can get more done faster.
It's a great question, if this meeting goes well, what would we do next? Well, is there a way to just skip that step and get them both done? And what would happen after that?
Another mistake people make is that if it's going to be negotiations, like if you're doing a deal or something, people wait till the deal's all done with the business guys, and then they'll bring in the lawyers. If you have a good deal lawyer, start bringing him in much earlier. There's a lot of examples. Bring more people to the meetings. So I'm not saying have a lot of meetings and have a lot of people spend a lot of time in meetings. I'm just saying that if you're doing something anyway, try to move it closer to now.
So if you were an entrepreneur, again, doing a couple $100,000, $1 million a year, and you really needed to ramp things up, take them up very fast, what would you do?
One of the keys to the whole deal is you have to think about yourself and your organization, but you have to think in terms of learning, that you can do more when you know more. And that's just, that's the way it is, if you want to earn more, learn more. And for you, if you're going to stay the captain of the ship, and as the company grows, you're going to have to always be doing stuff that you've never done before. And because, for example, for us, running a $30 million company is just completely different job description and skill set than what it took to get to be a $5 or $10 million. We all know that. It's just intuitive, or you've seen. It's just completely different. And that's no surprise to any of us, but sometimes people sort of forget, and they either do one of two things. They forget to look ahead and try to figure out not how do I solve these problems I'm working on today, but what problems are going to be at that level, and what do I need to start reading and learning, because there's this whole idea of unconscious incompetence. You get there and you don't even know what you don't know. You don't even have a clue about what the issues even are. And so the sooner that you can start just sort of trying to get your arms around what the issues are, because they're different at every level. Unless you're going to fire yourself and get somebody in there who actually knows what they're doing, if you want to keep running the thing, then you're going to have to learn new stuff all the time. So you've got to learn faster and faster and faster, unless you just stay at this level. And then that's why I like to say, if you're doing something you're good at, that's probably bad. And I've not heard a lot of other people really say that, but I think about that a lot. If you're doing something you're good at, that's probably bad.
As a leader, you've got to grow that fast.
If you're great with AdWords and you're sitting there looking at Google AdWords all day, I don't even know what our login is, you know what I mean? Which is probably bad, but we got people that look at that, or if you're good at writing copy, great. But that's why so many of the great marketing guys really made a lot of money, because they could sit down and write the copy, but that doesn't mean they really know how to hire good people and get the right accountant in there and build an HR department. And unless you just want to be that guy that makes a few $1,000,000 a year writing copy for other people. If you want to build a sustainable business, it's got equity in it, so that now the business is making money for you at the same time that it's, otherwise it's like renting a house or buying a house. The business needs to appreciate, not just however much you make, selling stuff.
One of the metaphors that I use a lot is, when I first got into business, I was trying to do business in my area. I became a real estate agent almost 15 years ago and couldn't make it happen, and started trying to figure out how to get clients, and then I discovered marketing. And once I discovered marketing, I said, that's it. This is where all the leverage is. This is the only place I've seen where you can get, double, 5x, in some cases 10x or more results by making one little change. And there are people who've gotten those kind of results this week with one little tweak during this program. So I dropped everything else essentially, and I stopped caring so much about everything else. Maybe I read a book here and there and whatever, and I just started picking up the marketing weight and pumping my bicep. And then I really realized at one point that I had this giant bicep and the rest of my body had kind of atrophied. And when you're trying to grow a business and you've just got marketing and that's your hammer, you're trying to use that to solve everything. And literally, I did try to use it to solve everything. Hiring problem? Well, we'll use marketing. We'll do this cool marketing technique to hire better. It's insane. But each of these areas is a little universe of knowledge that you need to go into, learn enough about so that you're competent, and then come back out and then go on to the next one. And then you've got to integrate.
One of the keys to speed clearly is developing the organization. If you got, it's not just getting you to learn more at the next level, it's how do you get every single person in the company moving up this flow channel. Flow, if you haven't read it, and I haven't read it either, he told the book and drew a diagram, and that's basically the book, is that people have abilities and people have challenges, and if they have no ability and a lot of challenges, that's bad, and if they have no ability or a lot of ability, but you've got to match it, and you still got to be in this flow channel. But the trick, that's just one of the things I said to you in San Diego. You put this diagram up and explained the whole book, and it makes perfect sense. And I said, well, that's interesting, but that's just a fact. The question is, how do you get everyone in the organization moving up the channel faster? And of course, that's all training and development. And most people at small and medium-sized companies don't even think about it. You go to a company like GE or really well-run companies, they're spending a fortune on training and development and developing their people and all that. Small businesses will go out and spend all this money on the guy's salary and not spend a couple $100 for an office training program so that people know how to use Excel and Word, and they waste all this time. So training and development is kind of the key. And that's...
One of the things I talked about in some of the materials before this is I read an article with Andy Grove from Intel, and he did a kind of an in-depth study about the best ROI investments in business, and he came down to one single investment universally in business that
training development.
Highest ROI is training.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You just think about people. If you really saw, let's say we've got about maybe 100 people now or something like that, but if you go around and actually watch people that are working with Word documents or Excel and how much time they'll waste, and it's unbelievable. You'd be shocked. Or just Outlook and stuff. And I mean, a couple $100 on training programs, just get that implemented and you'll spend this much and you'll get that much.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one interesting thing? I had a chance to hear, I don't know where this fits in, but I thought it was pretty darn interesting, so I'll just share this thought. I had a chance to sit down with Scott McNealy last week, the chairman of Sun, the guy that was CEO of Sun, and obviously he's a pretty amazing person. It was cool. He gave a keynote presentation in Atlanta at a venture forum thing, so I went and heard him speak. And then afterwards, he was up, and they made an announcement. Scott's going to be asking questions. He'll be upstairs in the delegate room, in the media room or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, well, I've got a radio show. I've got a blog. I'm in the media, I guess. So I go upstairs, and there's like a small hotel room with a little round table, and there's a guy from Bloomberg and some lady from I don't know where, and a couple empty seats, and his corporate communications person, and some guy going around taking pictures. So I sit there just for like me to you, talking to Scott McNealy for like 45 minutes. Pretty cool. And so the Bloomberg guy was asking questions. They did a couple back and forth and went to this other woman, and then it came to me, and I said, hi, I'm Brad Fallon from SEO Radio, and my question is, and we got to sit there and kind of shoot the breeze for almost an hour. It's pretty cool. But one of the things...
Marketers are such sly people, aren't they?
It's great.
I own the URL SEO Radio. I just registered it before I ran up here.
I'm a blogger. I'm in the media. But anyway, that was cool. But what I wanted to tell you that was pretty cool was his entire talk for an hour at this keynote was move the free line. Move the free line was his entire talk, which is the phrase. I don't know if you made. I think you made that up.
Yeah.
And people have always talked about you have free reports, and then you have $49 audio courses and teleseminars, or you have $200 video, and then you have whatever coaching programs, and you have one-on-one consulting, and you have this whole box where here's the stuff you give for free. And then here's the stuff that's a little more expensive, and here's the most expensive stuff over here. And if you move the free line and give more of the stuff away for free, then you'll sell a lot more. And then what I did is sort of drew it a little bit differently, because in that box, it's kind of hard to see. But if you think about a sales funnel where your free stuff's up here and it comes into the funnel, and then your most expensive products are down at the bottom of the funnel, the thing is, the funnel it's not in this little box, it's the whole internet. So if you give more of your stuff away for free, like you always say, think of your best thing, the one thing that you think is really your big deal, and go give that away. Then what happens is you just get so much more lead flow and just so much more, leads and whatever coming in the top of the funnel. So anyway, that was Scott's whole hour-long presentation. He actually had, because he was talking about open source software and how you give the valuable stuff away, and then you make so much more money on the back end. And he had like 5 different points and examples about that, but I just thought that was really cool. I'm sitting there listening to him give our talk in a whole different way.
So another thing that you talk about in our conversations I found very interesting is you draw the 4 boxes and you talk about, I don't know where you got this from, but how business owners, entrepreneurs usually don't pay attention to several of them, and we need to build those muscles in different areas of business.
Yeah, you know, part of the challenge is that you know, it's not like I've ever done this before. You know what I mean? I mean, I know some of you guys actually worked in companies or were in management or something like that. I mean, I wasn't, and so you know, and all of a sudden you're supposed to.
Yeah. There are a lot of people here that worked in companies were in management before this, right? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, well, not the 20-year-olds that are doing millions of dollars online, because you know, I'm sorry.
No, there are a lot of people that didn't come from that background. Raise your hand if you just kind of made yourself without being from management in a corporation, right?
But okay. Raise your hand if you've ever worked in a large corporation, sort of seen that movie, right? I mean, you know, or you've read Dilbert, so you know everyone knows what we're talking about.
Oh, Dilbert. Okay, I'm sorry. Peace.
Yeah.
Okay,
good. You know, that's the deal. But what were we talking about? Oh, well, the problem is, the problem is, like you'll go hear a speaker or something like that, and they'll give you a little nugget or a little tip or a little tactic, and it's like, okay, that sounds great, but where the hell does that fit in? I mean, is that, I don't know, it just seems to me that you've got to kind of get your arms around what the issues are, and I think that if you're the CEO, if you're the business owner and you're running the thing, you really have three main jobs. And do you want to, should I say what they are?
No.
Okay, well, we'll talk about the boxes again.
No, write down I think. Get a fresh piece of paper.
This is what I think, and you know, realize I just made this up and whatever, but this is something I've thought about for the last year, and so if you guys have other ideas, maybe raise your hand and see what you think, but this is just my take. I think that the first thing that you have to do is articulate the vision. And so I use the verb articulate because you've got to say it over and over and over. I mean, don't be one of those companies where any consultant walks in, passes out a survey and says, what do you guys actually do around here? And everyone says a million different things and no one can answer that question, and then the consultant looks smart and you look stupid, and you know, just make sure that everyone's like on the same page. And you know, a one-page business plan. I won't even ask how many people actually have a business plan. I mean, first of all, who has time? I mean, you know, a traditional business plan doesn't even make any sense. It's like traditional strategic planning. Do you know they've actually done studies on this stuff now, and the companies that actually do strategic planning tend to do worse because all it does is lock them in and decrease their flexibility. So 6 months later, they say, well, I can't do that. That's not the plan. We have a plan. You know what I mean? You've got to be flexible. That's part of the deal, especially if you're moving quickly. That's part of speed. You've got to be agile, and you've got to be flexible. But anyway, on this whole vision thing, get it on one page. You know, a one-page business plan is a great exercise. There's a couple good books on it. It doesn't matter what format you use, but put down your vision, your mission, whatever, you know, put that stuff down on one page, goals for the year, basic idea, you know, get it on one page. I'm a big fan of one-page stuff. Big fan of one-page job descriptions, you know, everybody that works there, you know, name, title. Then we always put at the top, your number one job is to help us get and keep customers. I think that's just sort of worth saying on a job description. But then you basically have what this person's supposed to do every day and how it's going to be measured. And could you imagine if more companies could actually have that for all the people running around doing who knows what? I mean, it would be profound.
So, sounds a little different than the average job description, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually you want to figure out what they're going to do every day and how it's going to be measured. That's part of our hiring process. If you do that before you're actually hiring them, you get a much better success rate. But anyway, articulate the vision and say it over and over and over, and every time you talk, and make sure that people get it. The second thing after that is drive the culture. And I use the verb drive because I think that you just don't want to let it happen. You can just let it happen. You might have a great culture, but I think that if we put thought into it and try to be a little bit more proactive or a little bit more purposeful about what we want it to be like to work around here, that's going to be better by definition. And you have to drive it because that's the one thing that you can't hire. You know, they talk, I don't know who it is, you guys might remember, but the book that talks about smart companies and healthy companies. And to be a smart company, that's like a marketing plan. If you don't have that, go hire somebody who knows how to do that. Or a financial plan, you can hire somebody smart that knows how to do that. But the healthy companies and the culture, that's from the top down. And if the guy at the top is messed up, then everybody else is going to be swimming upstream the whole time. And you've really got to drive the culture and be purposeful. Not saying that you should make up what it's going to be. We actually, at our company, maybe over a year ago now, we actually created a culture club. So we got people from all different levels and all different departments in the organization. We'd get together for pizza once a week at lunch, and we would talk about what do we want it to be like to work around here. And so we had the little one-page thing of our corporate values or whatever, and then that was good. And then we started putting that in our orientation programs and whatever. Because one of the things that Evan's so good at is because of the uniqueness of their organization, that people, it takes them a few months to sort of catch on, and 6 months or a year to sort of be productive. And I think that's always the way it's going to be. But I was just sort of, so the question is, at the end of the day, how do you get people to be the most productive and the best teams and the work sort of environment? And the question that I like to add is how do you do that faster? And so, for example, once you get up to a stage where you've got people coming in that you haven't met until they started work or whatever, an orientation program. Big companies sort of do that, but a lot of these small and medium-sized business, literally, people show up to work, and oh, we forgot to get you a computer, but we'll have it by tomorrow, and anyway, this is going to be your desk, and here's your phone, and oh, that's Jill, and okay, you guys, yeah, maybe you go to, you know what I mean? It's just that's what people do when they have small businesses. And so having an orientation program where you spend a whole day or a couple days telling people the history of the company and what it's like, you know what I mean? It seems obvious in retrospect. Why did it take us like 2 years to start doing that? I don't know. But anyway, so you have to drive the culture. And the third thing is hire good managers. Hire good managers. And that's it. Management's everything. Raise your hand if you've not read First Break All the Rules. And there's no shame. But you guys should go buy and read that book. And you probably should read it every quarter. First Break All the Rules. You know why? Because it's the data. They proved that for one company and another company doing the exact same thing, this company is going to crush this company, or this branch office is going to crush that branch office with the answers to these 12 questions, and they proved it. These were, these Gallup poll people and statisticians, and they figured it out, that the answers to these 12 questions make all the difference, and it's all about the frontline managers. Why? Because they're the ones that are going to hire the best people and retain the best people and motivate the best people, and it's all about the frontline managers, so you've got to hire good managers. And you just can't do it yourself.
How does one sell $12 million worth of something in one day?
Marketing Sherpa actually did a case study in this launch, but in a nutshell, the way we sold $12 million in one day, and by the way, that was gross sales, before affiliate commissions and dropouts and stuff like that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think the
10 million 3 or something.
The cash, I think the PayPal's and the credit cards we collected the first day was like 2.1 million or something like that.
In like actual cash collected?
In 12 hours, yeah.
Sorry, $2 million in cash collected in one day isn't that good either.
That was a good day. It's funny, we were up all night, and it was pretty wild. Me and Andy thought it was just going to be him and me doing a couple teleseminars every month again, and all of a sudden we're like, holy shit, We'd been up all night, and I fell asleep about 4 or 5 in the morning, woke up a couple hours later, and we got this launch going, and it was pretty stunning. I just remember at about 1 or 1:30, and there's just $1 million in the bank, and I was sort of thinking, I've been banging my head against this entrepreneurial wall for 20 years, and I've had bootstrapping everything and whatever, and I've never in my life had a checking account that I was a signer on that had $1 million in it, It's pretty wild. I went to Chevron, where I have lunch 2 or 3 times a week, hot dog, Diet Coke. How many people eat in Chevron? Quick Trip's real good too.
It's
faster.
What percentage of meals in America are consumed in cars?
Probably more than we think.
I read it's 10%.
Oh, really?
10% of meals are consumed in cars.
It's probably higher for me, but I'm up in the average a bit.
Oh.
But anyway, so
20% of hot dogs are consumed in cars.
But the way we did that launch, there are a couple interesting takeaways. There were a couple things that we did, and of course we had a lot of help from some great internet marketers, but when we did it, a couple of the keys were, and this is what became Free IQ, and I think this is profound. We did it by putting out 3 free videos, and they were about 30 or 45 minutes worth of content, and there was nothing for sale. There wasn't, in the first couple ones, there wasn't even a hint or an indication or an illusion that there might be a product for sale down the road. It was just free content. And we put it out with the reverse opt-in, and there was this big fight between two really well-known internet marketers that were working with us, and one guy said, you guys are idiots if you're going to go put out 2 or 3 hours of this content that's worth all this money, and you're not even not even going to get an opt-in? Did you not go to Internet Marketing 101? Are you stupid? And the other person said, no, we're not going to require an opt-in. After they watch the content, they can opt in if they want to get more like this. And so we called it a reverse opt-in, and I think it was, I think Frank was well vindicated. That turned out to be a good idea, because what happened is the second part, if you think about online video sort of being a profound thing, and we can come back to that, but if you think about a Venn diagram where you have 3 intersecting circles, Free IQ is right in the middle of 3 of them, and it kind of, I thought of it after this launch, which that's how we did it. And again, I wish I could say I planned the whole thing, but it turned out to be a really good idea. Online video, and then affiliate marketing. And the thing about the reverse opt-in was it made it really easy for the affiliates to promote, right? Because they could say, hey, there's this great content up. It's all about latent semantic indexing, all this advanced SEO stuff. Go check it out. It's free. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but I watched it. It's great. Go look at it. You don't even have to opt in. And then people did. So in 10 days, I think we had like 420,000 people on a brand new domain and a brand new product download or watch these free videos, just kind of moving the free line. And then about 57,000 people opted in, and then we did some other things too, like we had a very public launch blog, which other people have done or whatever, but like 1,300 people submitted comments on the blog, and 10,000 people submitted questions, and we answered those questions. We posted all the videos across the top, and then we put the sales letter out in the 5 days leading up to it. So there's 5 things that you get in StomperNet, right? The home study course, the members-only portal, the really active community, constant ongoing training with some of the best subject matter experts in the world on every topic, from analytics to conversion stuff to SEO and pay-per-click and affiliate marketing. We've got like 400 or 500 hours of content now that's just really unbelievable. And then some proprietary software, and then we do 4 live events a year. So we put out a description, which was really the sales letter of just each one of these 5 things, but described it in detail in the email so that when it came time for the launch day, people didn't have to read the sales letter to know what's included. They'd already gotten all of that. So, so that pre-launch process was pretty key. And then, of course, the third circle in this Venn diagram, online video is a big deal, affiliate marketing is a big deal, but nobody's doing it right. Does it not make sense to anybody else that when you're an affiliate for someone, like no one ever cuts affiliates in on the back end? I mean, why not? It doesn't make any sense. Like Amazon, I guess if you're Google or Amazon, you really don't need to. It's sort of different. But I mean, the point is Amazon pays 4% on a session cookie. That's not really an affiliate program. I mean, that's kind of dumb. So anyway, but the idea of paying affiliates for an entire year on any back-end things is, I think, pretty cool. And then the third big circle is digital media products, or what we'd call information products. That's going to be a big deal. I mean, a really, really big deal. If you think about user-generated content, which, by the way, is the story about online video, I don't know if you guys know this, but when they started showing that people are using broadband and everyone's using YouTube and everyone's like, oh, video's a big deal, then some people thought that eventually the entertainment companies and video game companies and film studios, people like that, they would come and create all the quality content, and then that's what online video would be all about, or more professional corporate stuff. But it's not. It's just all about these little video interview snippets and all about these little clips and all about user-generated content. Well, the fact is in the business world that all the guys that are old enough to have sort of career experience or subject matter expertise, 20 and 30-year careers, they couldn't make information products. A lot of us are old enough to remember it used to be hard to do a conference call just to get a bridge line. You know what I mean? It used to be like really expensive. You didn't have freeconferencecall.com. You didn't have GoToMeeting with a 30-day free trial. You didn't have Camtasia or free software to capture that, and that's an information product. Well, all these guys catch on pretty quick. So I think that in the future, it's going to be just huge. And so the way these things work in my mind is that, tell me if you guys agree with this. I think this is the way it works. If you think about the things that really become, what they say, ubiquitous or whatever, that's kind of the big word in the whatever. But the point is, the stuff that gets really big that everyone has, like email and then websites and now online video, I think the stages it goes through is that first a few geeks have it, and then a bunch of kids have it, and then a few small businesses have it, and then every business has it. And that was like email. It really wasn't that long ago that we can all pretty much remember in polite business conversation, you used to say to someone, hey, do you have email? And nobody says that anymore, so. But and then we would say, do you have a website? Nobody says that anymore. Well, right now, if somebody speaks at a conference you go to, you go up to them and you say, hey, Doug, that was a great presentation. Do you have a video of that on your website? I want to show the guys back at the office. What does he say? No, I can give you my slides. Well, it's not really the same, Doug, but I'm telling you, in 3 years, saying to somebody, do you have a video of that presentation on your website, will be just like saying, do you have email? It's coming. Right now, a bunch of kids have it. Now, a few small businesses are even starting to put stuff on YouTube, but pretty soon it'll be everywhere.
So what one piece of advice would you give to a business owner that's in that couple 100,000, maybe to $1 million or $2 million, to really take things to the next level when you're in that zone where you're just busy all the time, you just got a lot going on?
Yeah, you got to think ahead, right? We got a minute or two left.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Web 3.0?
Go for it.
See, here's what I think is interesting, and I don't know if this is actionable or whatever, but I think it's interesting just sort of, we have to think ahead. And the way I look at it, and some of you guys have heard me say this before, but comes on the end of it, where we used to talk about how the internet was invented in like 1856, right? Because that was the first time that human beings could communicate electronically. That was, except for smoke signals, that was really the first time that human beings could, or banging on trees, that was the first time that people could be in different places and have a conversation, separated by space. But they had to both be there at the same time. And it's only a one-way conversation. So the telephone was a big paradigm shift because now you have a two-way conversation, but again, both people have to be at the same time. The cool thing about the internet was that it was a two-way conversation that takes place independent of time and space. So your website is talking one to many, right? Talking to all these people, they can come to the website and get information, and you're out talking to somebody else, but all these different people are having their own conversation, two-way conversations independent of time and place. But then, with Web 2.0, I think what that's all about, it's not just your website talking one to many, it's many people talking to many people. And that's what's profound about it. If you think about the exponential growth of the network and all that kind of stuff, everybody talking to everybody at the same time in communities and ratings and reviews and all this kind of stuff, that's a big deal. Web 3.0, which is all about RDF and ROR, and it's basically machines being able to understand other machines. And so now you have everybody's computer talking to everybody's computer and understanding it. And that's going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting. We were, a few of us on our team, on one of my trips recently up to San Francisco, going to different companies and what have you. I think we went and saw, we had the good fortune to get one of Emily's friends took us on a tour of Pixar. I think that's when it was. Anyway, we were talking afterwards about how you have to be really careful because soon, and I mean probably not that long from now, anything that you've ever done that has been posted online, there will be a machine that will be able to find it. Whether it's a video, a picture, some words. If you got a little paragraph, it'll know that you wrote it because they can figure these things out by the order of the words and the probabilities of these things. So be careful what you put out there online because soon anyone will be able to type in your name and get everything that you've ever done. Brad, thank you very much for joining. That was fantastic.
Yep.
Thanks, buddy.